How's that? How's that? I think that worked. Oh, unbelievable. What a start. Awesome. All righty then. So, anyway, I'm not going to bore you with what the issue was. It was kind of silly. But anyway, um, you know what the open was. It's the same one I do pretty much all the time. But getting back on track now, uh, we are, this is Christmas. And so Merry Christmas to all. And as far as we're concerned here, yes, it is Christmas. Not holiday season, not Festivus, not Saturnalia, or um, whatever other name they want to give it, sponsored by your credit card, whatever the case may be. It is Christmas because it's not about the season. It is about the reason. It's not about vibe. It's not about nostalgia. It's not about pretending that it's not about pretending that you're living in a Hallmark movie or any such nonsense like that. It's about the Savior. And 2,000 years ago, God didn't send a sale. He didn't send a rebrand. He didn't send a strongly worded statement encouraging kindness or anything of the sort. He sent his son, born in a barn, laid in a manger, sent into a hostile world to save people who didn't believe they needed saving. And ever since then, the culture is working tirelessly to keep trying to give gifts and music and getting a day off work, all of the worldly things that people hold dear, all while telling Jesus, just wait over there. So we are not doing the Christmas vibe thing. We're not doing we're not doing nostalgia. We're not doing all the secular worldly things that people want to say Christmas is. We are going to talk about what the true meaning of Christmas is. A moment that history was split in two. It was divided, whether the world likes it or not. So, Merry Christmas. And let's just get something straight right off the bat. It doesn't exist because people needed something cheerful at the end of the year. And we can get into when Jesus was born and all that. That's a whole other issue. Christmas doesn't exist because winter is depressing. It's not depressing here in Arkansas, but it doesn't exist because capitalism needed another way to make money. It doesn't exist because of any of that. It exists because something happened. And it wasn't seasonal, it was historical. The culture loves this aesthetic of Christmas. It loves the vibe, it loves the lights, the music, the traditions, all of that stuff, which is fine. Celebrate the holiday with those things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm not banging on that at all. But Christmas isn't about, at the end of the day, how you feel. It brings something to the table, whether you agree with it or not. And modern Christmas has been carefully softened and deliberately and aggressively commercialized. And for a long time, as everyone probably knows, I grew up in church. My dad is a preacher. And for the longest time, and there's still a part of me that feels this way, I couldn't stand Christmas. I couldn't stand it because even though I wasn't a Christian and didn't feel it the way a lot of other Christians felt it, I just knew that what Christmas had turned into was completely wrong. Completely wrong. And it annoyed me to no end. And you wouldn't find a bigger bah humbug than me. I absolutely despise the season, even though I knew intellectually what it was really about. I couldn't stand everyone else who just completely dismissed it out of hand and just used it as an excuse to spend money they didn't have to buy gifts for people who are going to be ungrateful. My wife just showed me a video of some kids opening gifts and just being going completely off the rails with their ungratefulness. Anyway, let's let's get back on track. That was a sidebar. Nowadays, Christmas to a lot of people is about the gifts they give, the gifts they get, family, togetherness, kindness, peace on earth, the magic, so-called, of the season, the spirit of the season, which is all fine. It's all fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But those are effects and affects. But none of them are the actual cause. None of them are the reason. You don't get peace without the Prince of Peace. You don't get meaning without truth. You don't get Christmas without Christ. No matter how many rebrands, no matter what you attempt, the season didn't produce the message. The message produced the season. So let's strip away all of the commercialized nonsense for a second. No lights, no soundtrack, and no Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas. That is, I know people hate that song. That is actually one of my favorites, guilty pleasure. Sue me. But Luke 2:11 says, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord." That's not a symbol. That's not a metaphor. That is a Savior. That is the true meaning of Christmas. It wasn't random. And it was, if you read the Bible throughout the Old Testament, it was prophesied many times that a Savior was coming. And then John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory." God didn't send instructions. He didn't outsource redemption. He showed up. He showed up. He showed up as a baby. He delivered submission. He delivered redemption. And that kind of reveals one of the problems. People don't find Christmas offensive because of its religious roots. They find it offensive because let's before we dive into that, let's check out some of these chats. The Queen Bee says, "I used to be the worst humbug." Yes, I was, without a doubt. BZ, who was first in chat, by the way, thank you, BZ. Nice rock hat, Reaver of Common Sense. Yes, he sent this to us for Christmas, and I meant to wear it in a previous show, and it just slipped my mind. But this was a Christmas gift from the Reaver of Common Sense, so I'm going to rock it on the show before Christmas. So thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. And then BC says, and certainly no, baby, it's cold outside. Oh, yeah, exactly. Christmas is offensive to some people because it is exclusive, not inclusive, like all these leftists want everything to be inclusive. It's exclusive. And Matthew 1:21, and she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his, this is an angel speaking to Joseph in a dream, and she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save people from their sins. And that's why people find it offensive on some level, and why they want to just sweep that portion under the rug. Because a savior implies that sin is real and that something is wrong and something that you cannot fix yourself. And modern culture absolutely hates that. Everything is about what I can do. Everything is about me. Everything is about you. Just if you want to do it, you're entitled to it. Just do it. Do what feels good. Everything that the Bible basically teaches against. Modern culture absolutely hates that. John 3:19 explains it. It says that light has come into the world and people love the darkness rather than the light. Everyone loves the season. Everyone loves the baby, but no one wants the king. No one wants to acknowledge the king. And that's why Christmas gets reduced to this overly commercialized, just season of excess that in reality is, without acknowledging him, really has no meaning. Feelings don't really require anything, but a savior does. And so if Jesus is the savior, then truth is not negotiable. And morality can't be self-defined, which is what the modern culture these days wants. They want the culture to be, they want morality to be whatever you make it, whatever you want it to be. They want it to be customizable. Whatever fits you, whatever fits your desires for that particular day. And that can get us into a whole other discussion, which we won't get into right now. Isaiah 9:6 says that, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. That's not a seasonal slogan. That's not sentimental. That is authority. And that's why Try As They Might Christmas cannot be neutered. That's why it can't be, the true meaning can't be swept under the rug. It doesn't conform to modern structure, modern frameworks. It basically dismantles them. And that makes everyone who does not believe uncomfortable. And so they just ignore it. Christmas doesn't exist because humanity needed traditions. It exists because humanity needed saving. Jesus wasn't born to inspire seasonal kindness or lift up your spirits once a year. He was born because something was broken. We broke it. Humanity broke it. And the culture keeps trying to turn it into a feeling of some kind, because feelings, as I said, don't require anything. They don't make demands. You just indulge them, whatever they may be. But a savior requires something. A savior makes demands. A savior means that your sin is real and you need to be redeemed from it. A savior means that reality, you don't get to define reality based on your feelings and your comfort. That's why the lights, the trees, the decorations, the presents, the music, all of that is welcome. But the authority of Jesus Christ, that's where everyone gets, not everyone, that's where people who don't believe tend to get a little uncomfortable. In some cases, a lot uncomfortable. So, yeah, it's not about the season. It's not about the aesthetic. It's not about nostalgia. It's not even about family. It's about the Savior. He wrapped himself in flesh and changed history, whether the world likes it or not. That is what Christmas means. So, Merry Christmas. I know a lot of people are probably not going to like that, but hey, it is what it is. All right, y'all. I do have some news of the day that I want to get to. And of course, we have to talk about the Epstein files. And I'm not gonna drag that out for very long. They've been using this threat, I guess, for a long, long time. And they finally released them. The deadline was last Friday, and they've kind of dropped the ball on that and haven't released everything. When President Trump first said that it was a hoax. I was like, oh, really, dude? Did you really go there? But after everything that's been going on, after all the stuff that's been released, all the stuff that's been re-released that was already public, but they redacted some things and re-released it in an attempt to smear the president again. I agree with him. What happened to the victims of Epstein and Maxwell, obviously not a hoax. No one believes that. But everything leading up to this point where they released all of these files, it's all been a hoax. It has all been a hoax. It's all been a manufactured effort to destroy President Trump. And they've been at it for the better part of a decade. Now, obviously, appearance in these files it doesn't imply guilt in any way. Something that we've been saying when Trump was first mentioned in reference to Epstein and all the files and all the places where he may appear in some of this investigative material. And so the same has to be said for all the other people who appear in these files. And we'll get to a partial list of all those people here in a second. The way that this has been rolled out and Pam Bondi's handling of this has been abysmal. Going all the way back to the binders that all those conservative influencers were so proud to display. Some of those people I really respect. Rogan O'Hanley, also known as DC Drano, Liz Wheeler, Chad Prather. All those people showed up at the White House, got this binder, and it was supposed to be this big bombshell, and it was a whole lot of nothing. And it only has gotten worse since then in terms of how this information has been handled and released. BZ in chat says, this is a continuing hoax. If there was negative information on Trump, it would have been released again and again and again since 2016. Yes, I've been saying that from the beginning. The absence of something can be just as strong. Yes, absolutely. And I was gonna mention that, but yeah, I mean, they have been after Trump with this forever. And they had the ability during Biden's entire presidency, if there was anything there, they would have released it. When they realized he was going to run again, if there was anything damning in those files, they would have released it and stopped his candidacy in its tracks. Period. End of story. It would have been over. But the fact that they've been dragging this out this long, there is nothing on President Trump. And this has turned out to be more damaging for a lot of Democrats, because it basically shows that Epstein, his circle, was largely on the left. And when President Trump was in some of these pictures and at some of these events with Epstein, he was a Democrat. That was his circle too. And when he found out what Epstein was all about, or he got the idea what Epstein was about, he cut all ties. None of those other people can say that. So we have a long list of people who showed up in these files. Bill Clinton being one of the most prominent, kicking back in the hot tub or the pool. Prince Andrew, which we all knew about already. Alan Dershowitz, which we knew about already, and he has vigorously, vociferously denied any wrongdoing. I think he was Epstein's lawyer, so that would explain why he was in his presence and in these files. And he has threatened to sue anyone who makes claims of otherwise. Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Minnie Driver, Phil Collins, Mick Jagger, Naomi Campbell, Bill Gates, Kevin Spacey, surprise, surprise, Chris Tucker. I mean, and the list goes on. The list goes on. And as I said, just because you show up in these files does not necessarily mean, as in the case with Alan Dershowitz, doesn't necessarily mean that you have engaged in any untoward, nefarious criminal activity. But they don't offer that grace. They never offered that grace to President Trump. They say it about Bill Clinton. They would say that about all the other leftists who were traveled in those circles back then. But President Trump, it automatically means that he was engaged in some illicit behavior. So this I don't even really want to deal with this anymore. There's been no bombshells. We haven't seen anything damaging, really damaging on anyone. I mean, we can assume, and in the grand scheme of things, this latest dump basically is not basically, it is a lot more damaging to the left than it is to President Trump. All these things prove right now is that Epstein traveled in some elite circles, and some of the people who are in these files may or may not have participated in some of his disgusting behavior. And we're just going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's really, I hate even talking about it, but it's out there. It is what it is. And so we're going to have to deal with it for the time being. All right, y'all. I want to get a word in from our sponsor for today's show. And our sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear. And obviously, because it's 2 days before Christmas, anything you order at this point is the way the post office is operating these days and whatnot. If you get it by New Year, you'll be fortunate. We'll get it out. But then don't come at us when the post office says it's not, it hasn't shown up yet. But anyway, so in order to avoid all that, go ahead and get yourself a gift certificate. A gift card is instantly available. As soon as you order it, it shows up in your email, and you get an extra $25 for every $100 that you order. And check out this new design we have, the 250 years celebrating America, 1776 to 2026. That is a fantastic design. I love it. Where's mine? Anyway, but all of the stuff that we have on the site, you can You can order with your gift card, your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, your daughter. Um, these are all really cool gifts, just in time for New Year's. But yeah, please head over to carrygirl.com, check it out, check out the Grace collection, check out the drinkware, range gear, the Sprinkles magazine. That's that's interesting. But yeah, head over to carrygirl.com. Check out all the great stuff that we have over there. Get yourself or your wife or your girlfriend a gift card, and that will be there in time for Christmas. So check that out. We would really appreciate it if you visited carrygirl.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch my good friend Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ, who's in chat, thanks BZ, with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. So he will be on tonight. So be sure to like and subscribe to all of those great shows. We did reach 700. We actually got up to 702. I think we went back down to 700, but we're at 700. So thank you all for helping us out and getting us to that goal before the end of the year. And so now it's on to 1,000. So be sure to like and subscribe and share the channel, share the videos with everyone that you know, because we want to start the year off with a bang, and we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. So thank you very much. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. BZ says, yep, we're at 700 right now, and our goal was met for 2025. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And we are so thankful for that. So I'm going to get into this more in depth when we get back from Christmas break. So just so that I was going to talk about this in a minute later on, but this is going to be the last show before Christmas. My next show would be on Christmas Day. So we're not going to do that, obviously. If I try to do that, I'm sure B would have something to say about that. But anyway, last week and over the weekend, we had, not we, but TPUSA had their 5th annual America Fest, AmFest, and it was there was some fireworks. There was some fireworks, and if you were not aware or didn't think that there was anything to this chatter about infighting on the conservative side, well, that was on full display. And I didn't watch all of it. I am going to talk, like I said, I am going to talk about it when we get back, after I have a chance to watch more of the speeches and analyze exactly what was going on. But a couple of things I do want to talk about that did strike me, because it's something that I talk about quite often. Tucker Carlson, he got on stage and he basically defended Islam. He defended it. he engaged in what they call dawah, which is the promotion and basically evangelizing about Islam. That's what he did. He said that Islam is not, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said Islam is not the threat, but the way people react to Muslims is the threat. And he said that, well, you know what? Let's listen to a little bit of what he had to say. Because it was and well, you know what? Let's just listen to it, and then we'll talk about it.
Most people agree with that. Most Americans have more in common with each other than they disagree on. And almost everybody agrees on that. And almost everybody is willing to tolerate a good faith argument about how to get there. Except a few. And they're the ones running around calling everyone an anti-Semite. But everyone else is like, yeah, of course, that should be the debate. And they'll vote for you. They want that because they know they haven't had that. That's the fact. And what you're watching now, attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims, it's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I know there's a lot of effort to claim I'm a secret jihadi. I'm not. You should not attack people on those grounds. And you're seeing it from Republicans. What the hell are you doing? What you're doing is trying to divide the country. And I've lived through 50 years of this crap. All these fake race wars that they're always promoting. Oh, go hate each other while we loot the treasury. That's exactly what's going on. And most people are totally sick of that. So
anyway, Tucker is 100% wrong. Yes, exactly, BZ. What a load of crap. BZ also says, if you're not sufficiently intelligent to see what Islam is doing to the world, I have no time for you. And I don't think, I've always thought Tucker was one of the smarter people in media. And I don't think he's an idiot. Which means either he is a secret jihadi and he's promoting Islam according to his beliefs now, or he's just willfully ignoring the threat. And that's how I lean slightly. The claims of him being a jihadist, a secret jihadist, it's not outside the realm of possibility, honestly. It's really not. Because if he has subscribed to that cult, and his apartment in Qatar, yeah, well, he's not doing himself any favors by doing stuff like that. We'll put it that way. He's not doing himself any favors at all with any of this. And you notice he got no applause on any of that. He's at AmFest where Charlie Kirk spoke a lot. He recognized the threat that Islam poses. And he spoke a lot about that. And he's going to go to a TPUSA event and say it's disgusting to quote unquote attack people on the basis of their subscribing to Islam. Well, the problem is people who subscribe to that have attacked us. They have attacked the West. They tell us, their scholars, their imams tell us they're coming. They tell us Islam will be in every country, in every home. So what are we supposed to do with that? Believe him, but he apparently doesn't. He's basically saying that Islam is not the issue, that cultural decay or something in the West is the issue, that the way we react to Islam, the way we react to people who subscribe to this ideology, that's the problem. And as BZ said, that's a load of crap. He couldn't be more wrong if he said 2 + 2 = apple. Islam is the threat. BZ says it's as if people think that Christians should have zero judgment of anything and everything all the time. Nothing can be said to be bad if you're a Christian. Please. I can't explain that because anyone who actually believes that knows nothing of Christianity, knows nothing of the Bible. Jesus didn't affirm people's nonsense. He didn't affirm their sins. He didn't say, oh, that's fine. As long as you do X, Y, and Z, you can do that and get away. No. Christians are required to have discernment, righteous judgment. And to sit there and say, oh, Islam is fine, just ignores thousands of years of reality. It was founded in blood. It was founded in pedophilia. The so-called prophet was a warlord and a pedophile. If you want to subscribe to that religion, that's on you. But I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, it's fine. Nah, No. And so Tucker Carlson went on stage and embarrassed himself with that. And Tulsi Gabbard took the stage. I'm not sure how long after his rant she was on stage, but she took the stage and she spoke some truth. And her clip is almost 7 minutes long. I watched her entire speech, which was about 20 minutes. But the first minute and a half of this is spectacular and is right on point. So let's take a look at that.
There is a threat to our freedom that is not often talked about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology.
Exactly right.
It is propagated by people who not only do not believe in freedom, their fundamental ideology is antithetical to the foundation that we find in our Constitution and Bill of Rights, which is that our Creator endowed upon us inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Charlie focused on this quite a bit. He talked about it in ways that very few others did because he understood this direct threat to freedom. When we look back to the attack on 9/11 that happened 24 years ago now, It changed so many of our lives, where thousands of Americans were killed by Islamist jihadis who attacked us on that day. And we were confronted with the reality of the lengths that they will go to try to attack the foundations of who we are as a country. It was a day that changed my life, probably like some of you in the room. It's what motivated me to enlist in the Army, to go out and to fight and to defend and defeat, to defend our freedom and defeat those who are attacking us. But when we talk about this Islamist ideology, yes, it is the ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Al-Shabaab and Hamas and Boko Haram and others, and they must be defeated militarily.
That goes on for, like I said, another 5 or 6 minutes. Busy said in chat, thank God we have someone in government saying this out loud. Excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's about time. It is about time, because it is a threat. Islam is the threat. And to suggest otherwise is either to be willfully ignorant or stupid. And she went on to reject the idea that saying this out loud, that being wary of Islam is a phobia. When, of course, we all know that if you do have some fear of what Islam is capable of doing, well, you are fully justified. That's not an irrational fear on any level. Because they're telling us, as I said before, they are telling us that they are wanting to take over. It's in their holy book. It's in the Quran. I don't even like using that word when it comes to the Quran. But it's in there. And I've read the Quran. It's been a while, and I don't think I'm going to read it again. I probably will read some of the hadith so to get even some more insight into what these people are planning. But I mean, it's right there in the Quran. They spell it out. And the apologists will say, well, the Bible is just as violent. No, it's not. Not even close. There are violent passages in the Bible. Yes, there are violent stories. Yes. But there's also redemption. The Quran offers no such thing. Now, obviously, there was that juxtaposition between Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard, and there was some other fireworks. Ben Shapiro went off, and Steve Bannon went off, and a few other people had some words for each other that, like I said, I'll get into later. But for me, the real fault line, I guess you would say, is what happened, is the contrast between Tucker and Tulsi. Because he seems to think that criticizing Islam, that being wary of Islam, understanding the threat that Islam poses, he thinks that is the danger. He doesn't think Islam actually poses a threat, I guess. And he wants to prioritize internal cohesion in the movement. And there's a something to be said for that. But before that can happen, there has to be an agreement. And people like him are never going to agree with people like me who understand and are willing to say that Islam is a threat. And so there really can't be any internal cohesion when you have that wide a gulf. Other policy debates are fine, other taxes and whatever else you want to come up with. But when it comes to Islam and when it comes to the trans ideology, there really can't be any reconciliation, any cohesion, if you think that it's okay to mutilate kids and give them poison, basically, in the form of puberty blockers and all that other stuff and hormone replacement. If you think that's okay, then I can't have any sort of cohesion with you. If you think that Islam is fine and we just need to talk to them, I can't have any sort of coalition with you at all. It's just that plain and simple. And I am okay with that. Tucker Carlson had his rebuke of his critics. But Tulsi Gabbard warned the country. And when it comes to deciding which one of those is right, obviously Tulsi nailed it. And Tucker is just, I don't know, trying to preserve his income stream, I guess. Civilizations don't collapse because they're too vigilant. They collapse because they confuse caution with wisdom. And wisdom is understanding that Islam is an existential threat and must be treated as such. Calling an ideology, calling it what it is, calling it out for what it is not hate. It's speaking truth. And pretending that it's not there, pretending that it's not the threat that it is how you lose. And we cannot lose to Islam. Absolutely cannot. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to let that happen. Say that again. People need to write that down. I'm not sure which part you're talking about, BZ. Yes, the mental, chemical, and physical butchery of children, including FGM. Yes, yes. And we know what group of people participates in FGM, and we're just going to leave that there. All right, we are moving right along. I didn't think I was going to get this far this fast. Aside from the political fallout from TPUSA's event and the divide that we have between people who embrace Islam and people who understand what kind of a threat it is. Something else is happening in the conservative movement, and what we're seeing is almost a mass exodus of legislators leaving, Republican legislators leaving the body. Some of them are pursuing higher office. Some of them are leaving the House to run for Senate. Some of them are leaving to run for governor of their states. And I didn't think it was that big a deal, but it's gotten to the point where it's concerning, because the margins are already razor thin. And the latest examples of this, we know Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's leaving in January, and we're going to get back to her in a second. But Cynthia Loomis, the senator from Wyoming, is leaving. She's retiring after one term. And I actually respect it. She's, I think, 71, and she basically said she doesn't think she has the stamina to go another 6 years. Good for her. I respect that. She's a reliable conservative vote. But I think her replacement, assuming the person who announced, who I'm going to talk about in a second also, wins, I think will be just as good. So it's Cynthia Loomis, and Elise Stefanik announced that she not only is dropping out of the governor's race in New York, but is not going to seek re-election to the House. As I said, Cynthia Loomis is a reliable conservative vote. In fact, I looked at a couple of scoring sites that talk about the voting record of the people in Congress. And Cynthia Loomis, in last year, they don't have it posted for this session yet, but in last year's session, she had a 98% Liberty score, according to the Heritage Foundation. And her lifetime score is 82%. I wish that was a little higher, but I mean, when you look at the average Republican at 62%, that's pretty good. And so she has a good voting record on energy independence, on fiscal restraint, federal overreach. And I think her retirement is not going to be, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, because Harriet Hageman, who is in the House, I forget which district she represents, but she's in the House. She announced that she's going to run for Loomis's Senate seat. So I think, and her seat is a safe Republican seat. So I think Hageman is probably going to have I don't want to say easy. I don't want to say anything's ever easy, but I think she'll be okay. And I think she's going to win that seat. So Wyoming will stay red, but again, the margins are thin. And so this may not be a huge loss if Hageman can win, but it just perpetuates the issue or highlights the issue that something is going on with all of these Republicans leaving. And I'm not sure what that is. And Stefanik, she left. And BZ says in chat she didn't get Trump support, and she sees that. That may be true. And when I first heard it, I was like, oh, that's going to be a huge hit. But then I looked, and her voting record is nowhere near as stellar as Cynthia Loomis's. And yeah, I know one's House, one's Senate. I get that. But Loomis was in the House before, and her voting record there was pretty good too. But Elise Stefanik, her lifetime score is 51%. And the average House Republican is at 74%, which is okay. But in the last session, she was at 60. So upon further review, I'm really not that upset that she's leaving, because apparently the guy who President Trump did endorse is going to be, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but apparently that guy is actually going to be a much more reliable conservative vote in the House. So in the realm of all of these Republicans who are jumping ship, Elise Stefanik is not that big a loss, especially when you compare her voting record to that of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, her lifetime voting record is 92%. And last session, it was at 87. And whatever is going on in her head right now, I think Trump broke her brain somehow. I'm not sure what happened there. But just based on her voting record in the past, that is a much bigger loss than Elise Stefanik. So losing Stefanik doesn't really, okay. I don't think that's going to be that big a deal. Stefanik she checked the box. She checked some boxes. She was polished in front of a camera, fairly attractive, donor friendly, but she didn't buck leadership very much, unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so I think Republicans need to, people just need to dig deeper. And I didn't dig that deep. I just looked at the voting record and was like, whatevs. It's not that, her vote anyway is not that serious. The overarching issue of all these Republicans leaving, that's a problem that needs to be addressed and looked into and figure out what's going on. BZ says, because Republicans consistently and historically have failed time and again to coalesce. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think part of that is that there's room in well, there, historically, there has been room in the Republican Party for disagreements. But I've also said that even though Republicans tend to be more independent thinkers, there comes a time where they need to take some notes from the Democrats and just like you said, basically coalesce around the important issues. I'm not saying walk in lockstep like the Democrats, but the Democrats have figured out how to make sure that they're all moving in the same direction when it comes to their platform. And Republicans, for some reason, just can't seem to figure that out. And I know that the fact that they, for the most part, value independent thought. If you want to win, you're going to have to figure out how to come together as a team. And like you said, BZ, they haven't done that. I think it's the ones who aren't willing to go further in their opposition to the destruction of the United States, the rhinos. Yeah, I think for the most part that's true. There are a couple of solid ones that have left for other reasons. Loomis, I think her age factored in. She served in the House before she won her Senate seat, so I think some of that has something to do with her departure. But as a whole, yeah, I think you're right. Conservatives, what conservatives need to do is get off their butts and vote, and not just vote for the one that has the R in front of their name. They need to get out there and they need to start cultivating actual conservatives in these seats, and it starts locally. I've said before, I wish I had done more in Texas, but I absolutely am going to be more active here in Arkansas, and trying to make sure that we get conservatives at the local level that can move up, that can spread the conservative ideas throughout the state, so that we don't have this problem where there's no bench, so that we don't have a problem where we have rhinos in some of these seats who are just there to get paid. And I think that might be what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I may have mentioned this before, but maybe not, but she entered Congress with a net worth of a few $100,000 and is leaving at 25 million. So maybe she's just cashing out now, and Trump had nothing to, I don't know. BZ says they're too afraid of not being loved and too concerned about what people think about them. They're already hated, so who cares? Yeah, I mean, they're politicians. Nobody really likes politicians, honestly. So, yeah, it's a problem. Cynthia Loomis leaving is a problem. Elise Stefanik, yeah, maybe not, probably not. Marjorie Taylor Greene, before she went bat guano crazy. I know some people think she always has been, but I mean, she's running to CNN and BS Now to air her grievances. So something snapped up there. But anyway, that's something to keep an eye on, because we can't afford to lose any more any more conservatives in the House or the Senate. And with these midterms coming up, that could be a problem. So we gotta staunch that bleeding as much as we possibly can. Speaking of bleeding, speaking of Georgia, you know what? Let me frame it this way. We have seen over the past decade, conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory get proven right. It's no longer conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. It's not even conspiracy. We're just seeing things clearly earlier than everyone else. There have been, let's see if I have this video queued up. I thought I did. But there have been, well, we know, we've all seen the graph. We know that the 2020 election was stolen. And no matter how many times they say, well, he went in front of X number of judges and each court said that there was no evidence of fraud, blah, blah, blah. I think we all know that that is a lie. And as evidence of that, Georgia has just basically admitted that there was widespread election fraud. Depending on which outlet you look at, anywhere between 315,000 and 318,000 votes were fraudulently counted. Poll worker certification signatures were missing on those ballots, which made them invalid. And there's testimony that the ballots that were counted in this batch were pristine, even though they were supposed to be mail-in ballots, and all of that has come out, and they've admitted that these votes were counted fraudulently. Let's take a listen to them basically admitting just that.
I've not seen the tapes myself, but we do not dispute that the tapes were not signed. It was a violation of the rule. Since 2020, again, we have new leadership and a new building and a new board and new standard operating procedures. And since then, the training has been enhanced. The poll watchers are trained specifically. They've got to sign the tapes in the morning and they've got to sign the tapes when they're run at the end of the day.
There's another video of this guy right here laying it out even better, but I couldn't find a good quality video of that. But if you find it, this guy has all his talking points. He's reading them from his laptop, but he lays it out in clear detail. And I urge you to check that out if you can find it. I didn't want to play it because the quality clip that I found, the quality wasn't very good. But anyway, this was initially called a conspiracy theory. And they claimed there was no evidence of this. Even though, as BZ said in the chat, we all knew this. We knew this. It was obvious. It was obvious. And when the questions that you ask bump up against the approved narrative, it immediately gets labeled a conspiracy theory. If you ask questions, you get labeled. If you want transparency, they mock you. And if you cite election law, well, then you are trying to undermine democracy. And I never understood how some of these cases got decided the way they did, because it was clearly illegal what they did. It was clearly against some of the state constitutions where they changed these voting rules. And yet, that was a conspiracy theory. And now they just admitted in a public hearing that it was true. And when you account for all of these votes that were tabulated fraudulently, when you account for all of that, President Trump won Georgia, and he would have won in 2020. Now, I think it worked out for the best, because I think those intervening 4 years, I think he learned a lot. And I think he's a better president now than he would have been if he had won that 2020 election. So I think it all worked out. I think God, what they meant for evil, God used for good. So I will take that. But the fact remains that it was still a conspiracy theory that they claimed. And let's take a look at some of the conspiracy theories that later came to be proven factual. We got the COVID lab leak. They said that was a conspiracy. It came from a pangolin or whatever it was. Well, we know that has been proven to be true. They said it was a conspiracy that federal agencies interfered in the 2020 election. Claims of no coordination were just dismissed. We found out that was true. The Hunter Biden laptop, and he was just on Sean Ryan's podcast saying that the laptop, once again, is fake. And this is supposed to be the smartest guy that Joe Biden knows. Well, Joe Biden clearly didn't know very many smart people. But Hunter Biden is saying but we know the laptop was real. Intelligence people misled the public about the laptop. We know that conspiracy theory turned out to be true. The COVID mandates that would cost people jobs, cost people their health, that turned out to be true. Natural immunity, they said that was a conspiracy theory, that there was no such thing as natural immunity. Well, media collusion, school boards being used to push ideological content, big tech actively censoring conservatives, that was a conspiracy theory. That was a big one. True. I mean, the list goes on. There's just so many different alleged conspiracy theories that have turned out to be true. This matters now because we have elections coming up in 2026 and 2028. And if this doesn't get straightened out, if this doesn't get resolved properly, we could be facing the same type of thing. Because here's the problem. 2024 was kind of too big to rig. Everybody turned out in droves for President Trump. Republicans are notorious for being lackadaisical when it comes to midterms. And we have almost a decade of data that shows that when Trump is on the ballot, Republicans turn out. And so he's not going to be on the ballot in 2026 or 2028. And if you combine Republicans' lack of turnout with fraud, with election fraud, that could be a disaster. If we allow conspiracy theories, alleged conspiracy theories, if we allow the left to control that narrative, if we allow them to continue to say that these things anyone with a couple of firing neurons can see the truth. If we allow them to spin that as a conspiracy theory, we will be in a world of hurt, because they're desperate. They are desperate. They cannot allow Republicans, conservatives, to continue to stay in power in 2026 and 2028 and beyond. They can't allow that. And so Republicans, conservatives need to get off our butts and get in the fight and make the next one too big to rig, and the one after that too big to rig. Because like I said, if we don't, we will be in a world of hurt. Desperate animals will do anything, including chewing their own arms off. Yes. And as I said, they are desperate. They can see their power slipping away, and they cannot have that. All right, I'm running out of time, but I mentioned it, so I want to show you this. This was if the page will load. I talked about Hunter Biden being on Sean Ryan's show and saying that the laptop was fake. Well, here you go. Maybe. There we go.
So what I can tell you about the laptop is that there is no laptop. That's bullshit. What was provided out there, what the
there was no fucking laptop.
There is an actual physical laptop that somebody had, but the guy that said he had the laptop, the existence of the search for the laptop came before he was even a twinkle in Rudy Giuliani's eye. There were people, talk to Lev Parnas. Lev Parnas literally went to Ukraine to get a laptop from Dmitry Firtash, to get a hard drive, Hunter Biden's hard drive from Dmitry Firtash and Andrei Derkach in Ukraine, in Austria. 4 months before John Paul McIsaac nobody ever existed. And so what?
This guy, that was a word salad that Kamala Harris would be proud of. I mean, what is he even talking about? I think he was high, honestly. Yeah, apparently they were all fake photos. Or actually, he goes on to talk about how it was compiled from years ago, and that it was all compiled and then put onto this laptop to damage. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, folks, that is it. I will keep trying to make each episode better than the last one. If anything that I said hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share this show with everyone that you know, because we're not just here running our mouths into the ether. We want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. And if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, hit Shop 7 Armors, check out all the great designs that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, well, before I completely sign off, I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. We will not be here on Christmas Day. We will be back next Tuesday. And we hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas. Be safe. And we will see you next time. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. Merry Christmas.